I'd like to call the December 7th, 2023 Utilities Advisory Commission meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, all appointed commissioners are present except for one, therefore we do have a quorum. The public comments, seeing as there's no one here from the public, there is no public comments tonight. We have a presentation, Substation 4 Preliminary Design.
Good evening, Chairman, Commissioners. Yeah, Olson couldn't be here tonight, so I'll do the presentation. So why are we having a new substation, Substation 4? Our goal is always to provide safe, reliable electricity to our residential, commercial, and industrial development southeast of the city. So in order to do that, we have to put a new substation on the southeast of the city. The project, we retain Olson to do the land acquisition and preliminary design. There was two phases. Phase one was the actual the site location, the siting, then the land acquisition process, and phase two was a preliminary design. So phase one was completed in back in July 29th of 2022, and the city went ahead and purchased a 10.8 acres, which is located on Clare Road. The property was owned by, there's a church, New Life. So we purchased the property from them. So then the city told Olson, okay, let's go and do phase two, which is a preliminary design. This slide shows the location of the substation number 4, which is southeast of the Prairie Trace development. And then there's a close-up of the actual parcel. So phase two, the preliminary design included a ALTA survey that included descriptions, exhibits, then a geotechnical exploration and report, then substation engineering, transmission, civil engineering, and opinion of probable cost. Also the stormwater drainage and design. So this is a site layout of the new substation. Probably if I go to the next slide, might be easier. Not that one. This one. So this is the substation, but showing the elevation on the on your far left on the top, the little square, that's your switch gear. Then you go towards your right, you're gonna have your transformer, then a disconnect, then a series of PTs, then another disconnect, then a circuit breaker, an SF6, then disconnects more structure and another disconnect, and then that's basically it. So that's what is shown on the site layout. So the design is for 2 transformers, 2 switch gears, but phase 1 of, well, the first part of the substation will be putting 1 transformer. Then as load grows, we will put a 2nd transformer. But the actual design is already done for both transformers. This is the preliminary plan. 1 line is pretty much very electrical. Shows your configuration. That so what you saw on the site overlay, on the site layout, is what is represented here, but on the electrical concept. It shows basically, I know it's very small, but it shows your breaker, your transformer, your disconnects, CTs, PTs, different protection for the transformer and other equipment. This is a 1 line showing, again, your substation, transformer, then relay protection, and on the bottom is your switchgear, which is your feeders going to different circuits. And on the picture on your right, that's a switchgear. So that's what we're going to be getting, which is very similar to the one on sub 3. Any questions? Now here is probably the meat of the preliminary design. The opinion of probable cost, they're estimating to be about $14.9 million. The biggest expense is the substation equipment. It's about $7.2 million. The second one is probably the site prep and underground. Then you have a material contingency of 30%, which brings it up to another $2.5 million. Labor contingency is 15%, is about $360,000. So the total with an escalation of 4% is $4.9 million. The transformer or substation 3 was built, this in 2006, for about $5 million. So now you're talking 3 times that cost from the 3 times the cost.
This is just 1 transformer.
That's only 1 transformer. And the transformer will take anywhere between 18 to 24 months. So we're talking about 2025, if lucky 2026. That's just, and that's basically the presentation. Any questions? So this was presented to City Council in the last meeting a month ago, following the UAC meeting. And what I recommended was to have Olson provide a proposal for the final design, the procurement of equipment, the review of the different bids for construction, and also the to help us during the construction phase. So we're awaiting Olson to provide a proposal so we can review it and see how much that is going to cost.
And this should take care of the city's electrical issues for how long? You're estimating the next 10, 20 years?
With 1 transformer, I'm expecting 10 to 20 years.
Growth and stuff. Yeah, that's
So if you put a second, you're talking probably 2050, 2060. So it should be more than enough.
How much of a strain would it put on our current system until 2026?
We have I think I mentioned this before, we have so right now Grata in southeast of I-35 is being fed by T2, which is on substation 1. Right now the transformer is rated for 13 or 14 MVA. Right now the peak is about 9 or 10. So we have time. Now we have another project to upsize the T2 transformer to a 30 MVA. But that's gonna take also 2 years. But I think we have enough capacity left that we should be able to manage additional loads at this time.
And how will this be funded?
Through the electric fund,
And was this built into our original CIP projections for the 24, 25, 26
The-
years?
the project was on the CIP, however, the budgeted amount was $5,000, $5 million.
Based off of the costs from almost
From
20
previous,
20 years.
from previous projects, correct.
So this presentation was what we didn't get because we didn't have a quorum last
Correct.
meeting. So this went before the city council and they're moving forward with that. You already had the RFP process for Olson and that's what the city council awarded in their most recent action.
The request is a proposal, correct, from also for the final design.
And then this, you mentioned that, I think it was in October, we talked about the additional transmission lines that are being built over towards Walmart, and the northwest side of I-35. This will cover the southeast.
Correct,
side.
it will be, correct.
And will this, with the warehouses going in over that direction, is there any plans for them to be connected to our electrical grid? Or is that, I know they're annexed into Olathe right now, the current ones, so that's currently through Evergy and Olathe.
Correct, that's under Evergy service area.
Okay, so there are not currently any plans in development for those additional warehouses going in over there to be connected to our grid?
No. Any other questions?
And this is, this current proposal that was awarded is, we have the preliminary design for both transformers done. And that's the overall site plan, but this current phase is just for transformer 1.
Correct.
Is there a timeline for Transformer 2?
Transformer 2 for sub 4?
For,
Yeah.
yeah, yes.
Like I said, it was probably 2040, 2050.
Until we need it. They will put it in until we need it.
Sure. There's,
And this one should carry over to 2060, is what you said.
If you put 2, probably 2060 before.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer that it's better to have your infrastructure in place so that if a development comes, you can provide the service. It's
And
better
it
to have
encourages
excess,
development, yeah.
excuse me?
It encourages development, knowing that the infrastructure is in place, they don't have to wait for it to be installed before they can begin.
That could take 2 years, correct?
Cause yeah, that's where we're growing.
That way.
We're growing east now, so.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we'll move on to the consent agenda. All matters listed within the consent agenda have been distributed to each member for study. These items are considered to be routine and will be enacted upon by one motion with no separate discussion. If separate discussion is desired on an item, that item may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda. Are there any items any members of the commission would like removed from the consent agenda? Seeing none, can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I approve.
I second.
That was, wow.
Who seconded? I'm sorry.
I second.
Motion to approve the consent agenda was made by Augustine, seconded by Paul. Paul? I'm sorry? Plum, I'm so sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. There is no old business on the agenda, and there is no new business on the agenda. So we'll move on to discussion items. First discussion item is the UAC bylaws.
So on the, I don't think we can get the entire document, but what is being shown on the slide is anything on red is the changes that were made on the previous meeting, which is basically saying the chairman and vice chairman should be elected by the commission at his first business meeting in January every 2 years. The term of office shall be 2 years, and no member shall serve more than 4 consecutive years. Then we got a comment from Commissioner Augustine, and there was, on the original bylaws, it was always he, so we put he and she in case we have a female chairman. And then there was another comment from Commissioner Stauffer about eliminating, where is it?
Section 6.
Section 6.
Article 5, Section 6.
Sorry, I cannot see it.
Yeah, so my suggestion was that in Article 5, Section 6, we remove under commission action, we simply strike out the sentence that says the chairperson may not make or second motions.
And
You wanted to remove that? Is that what you're saying?
And I think that's a question for our city attorney.
Yeah, so that's still the proposal I'd like to make. I've served on in various volunteer capacities and advisory commissions where we use Robert's Rules of Order, and I've never seen one that prohibited the chair from making or seconding motions. And especially considering that a lot of times we have a minimum quorum, I think it's prohibitive to have that in there.
I agree that if we have a minimum quorum, that will make sense.
What do the other commissions do? The planning and so forth?
So this bylaw was developed or put together using the planning commission bylaws.
So my guess is they probably
Should be the
still have
same.
that
Yep.
wording in their document.
It's been a long time since I've read Robert's Rules of Order, and so I don't remember. You're saying it's not a common thing?
It-
Not something that's.
It happens occasionally, but most governing bodies that use Robert's Rules of Order do not put a prohibition on the chair from making or seconding motions.
So So you'll present that to the city, did you say city attorney or city clerk?
City attorney.
Okay.
So I'll send him the changes plus that change or question, and he'll review it, and if there's no problem, then I'll bring the revised bylaws on the next meeting for approval.
Were there any other changes?
That was all I saw.
Okay. If there's no other discussion on that matter, we'll move on to number 2, electric reliability indexes, October 2023.
So I was looking at almost the end of the year, so I was looking at the numbers. And as I mentioned before, the numbers seem to be achievable and way below the original target. The only thing that doesn't look right is the MIFI, which is the momentary average interruption frequency index. So during the first 2 years, we were using the Eco1, which is a NextGrid software product. And they were calculating like 0.0012 for 2021 and 0.0049. And I look at the APPA numbers, and they're not even close. So I believe the way the target was set, what we were using, or I was using, the NextGrid Eco1 numbers doesn't seem right. Because if you look at the definition is the number. So the way it's calculated, you get the number of momentary interruptions divided by the number of actual meters. And I know that we had more than, it will be 0.6. I don't have my phone. But to have a 0.0010 target, that means that it has to be like 1 interruption or maybe less than 1 interruption divided by the total number of customers. So that's not right. So that's the only number that is, that one in the SciFi appears to be a little more than our original target.
Well, I have a question on how the year-to-date for that is calculated. I tried every way to figure that out, and I could not figure out how you come up with 6.076.
So if you add, which is a rough, you add your numbers and it should come up to 6.076.
Yeah, I tried that. And if my calculator is wrong, it's wrong, but I could not come up with that number.
The other numbers is not a straight arithmetic. You have to, it's a little more complicated math.
Right.
So it's more of a, it's not simply adding up the monthly totals. It's more of a, each month is calculated on itself, and then the year is calculated on itself, not using the monthly numbers. Is that?
Not on this one, is it? This is the actual.
On which one? On the MAFI?
Yeah.
We can add the number.
You're saying
Yeah.
this one here?
Uh-huh.
6.076?
Yeah, it should be a total of those numbers.
1, 5, 2, 6.
And if you come up with a total, 6.076, I'll be very happy.
Well, it's the same thing on the minutes, right? The minutes, year-to-date minutes says 42.
Yeah, but that-
5517.
Yeah, 5.835. So a little shy from the 6.076.
So what does that mean?
That means that probably the numbers are being rounded off, so you're not getting the full amount.
Okay, so you're saying that actually the .0010 is not an accurate goal?
Correct. I think
So
that number,
what would be the accurate goal?
I will have to look at I will have to recalculate the 2021, 2022,
Okay,
and using the APPA standard, and then based on the 2021, 2022, and 2023, come up with a new target.
okay.
So if we're using potentially flawed methodology for our targets, I wonder if reaching out to the APPA and saying, what do you see other utilities in our category have as their targets, and use those targets for our new targets based off of an industry best practice.
Correct. I don't know if you remember, but early March of this year, I brought the APPA calculations. So there'll be a new one coming out next year, and I'll look at those numbers and to come up with a better, more realistic target.
So it sounds like we're doing a lot this year to clean up the numbers, so the numbers throughout '24 should look a lot, because there was some, I think in March we were talking about some numbers that needed to be cleaned up in this index, that were being calculated incorrectly because of software glitches, et cetera. So it sounds like if we make those changes, the year-to-date totals for '24 should reflect the actual numbers a lot cleaner.
Correct. And that's what I was trying to do for 2023.
Okay.
Any questions? We have the sewer repair third quarter report. We had 9 sanitary repairs affecting 9 customers, 2 due to debris, 5 to a resident's issues, and 2 due to others. The average workday response was 10 minutes, with an average working day repair time was 1 hour. The after-hours response time was 17 minutes, with a average repair time of 1 hour and 34. The overall response was 14 minutes, and the overall time to repair 1 hour and 23.
So when I was reading through both this report and then also the water supply report, for my curiosity, what numbers are we looking at roughly for customers connected to the sanitary sewer and customers connected to the water supply line?
So for sewer backups, we have a target of no more than 5
In a quarter?
in a year.
Okay. Well, but like, as far as 9 repairs in a quarter doesn't sound like a lot to me, but as a percentage of our customer base is kind of what I'm curious about. So are we looking at roughly 10,000 sewer connections, 12,000 sewer, like what are we looking at approximately?
So we have about 9,000 sewer connections.
And is it safe to say that that's approximately the same for our water supply lines too?
Usually the sewer connections are less, but yeah, you can use the water connections as a reference.
Okay. So maybe 10, maybe 9,500, 10,000 something for water connections.
9,000 for water, 10,000 for electric, and about another less than 9,000 for wastewater.
Okay. Thank you.
about 9,000. And I can give you the right number, but that's pretty close.
Well, and 9 repairs out of 9,000 customer bases over a quarter is, I'd say, a good number, a very good number as a percentage of our customer base.
And most of the issues, as you probably seen in the past, are due to residents. It's on the side of the resident.
So this number, if I'm not mistaken, includes all calls for service, regardless of what the cause is, and then that's where, anytime you say resident issue, that's determined not to be something the city's responsible for.
Correct. Any other questions? Yeah, the pie chart, you can see, the more than 50% are due to the customer side and not the city.
Yep, I was curious. I think several months ago we had a similar metric for what the causes of electrical failures were. I didn't see that in this packet. Do we have that? Is that something that's easy to access, or is that more of a yearly coalition of data?
That pie chart was generated through a different system, not the APPA nor the Eco One. But yeah, I can make it available.
Because it helps give me a better idea of exactly what's going on with all of our systems. I like seeing the one for the sanitary sewer. I like seeing the one for the water connections. I think it would be beneficial for us to see a similar report similar to this for the electrical one, and I believe we had a similar one like that in either March or April. So I would be curious to see that.
Okay. Yeah,
Well,
we can put.
Didn't we decide to change to the APPA?
Yeah, but the APPA has a graph showing the different causes for the outages. So I can pull that one. It's nothing additional, it's fairly straightforward. Any other questions? Then the water had 10 repairs affecting 31 customers, 5 due to line failure, 1 due to a residence issue, and 4 due to others. The average workday response time was 23 minutes, and the average repair time 3 hours and 35 minutes. The average after hours response time 18 minutes, and the average after hours repair time was 4 hours and 39 minutes. The overall average response time was 21 minutes, and the repair time was 4 hours and 1 minute.
Are we continuing to see, under other issues, are we continuing to see, I don't know, is Clearwave or other contractors currently still doing horizontal drilling and causing issues that we saw over the summer months?
Under other issues, I believe we have where is it? So the causes could be line failure, saddle failure, valve failure, repair clamp failure, damage by others, which would be the contractors, resident issue, and the other one is other. So if there was,
We weren't seeing a lot of damage.
not this quarter, no.
Yeah, they just did my neighborhood a couple weeks ago. They were very careful of digging up and.
Perhaps they learned some lessons in the damage they caused in the other neighborhoods.
The city does look nice with all the different color flags everywhere. Any other questions for discussion items? Then we'll move on to other business, the electric fund balance.
So this is the third quarter ending September 2023. Where is the balance? So as of quarter 2023, we have a net position of $13,749,174.
What is that number again?
On the bottom says net position, quarter 3, 2023, 13,749,174.
That's how much we have in the bank right now.
Correct.
Is that the total reserve?
That's the total fund balance.
Oh, that's the total fund balance. Okay. And how much are we required to keep in reserve?
25%.
Of 25% of what?
25% of your, I believe, the revenue, if I'm not mistaken.
Is it of revenue or is it of operating expenses?
I don't remember. That was, I couldn't tell you right now.
Okay.
Well,
Correct. It's operating expenses.
operating expenses, 25%?
So essentially, if 100% of revenue were to cease flowing into the electric fund, we would be able to operate for an entire quarter if we continue to maintain at least a 25% balance, if I'm understanding it correctly.
That's a good way of putting it.
So
Yes.
currently, we're sitting at about 3 quarters. If I'm reading the net position as a percent of expenses, so that's operating expenses, we're at about approximately 75% on that. For my edification, I can't remember. We use this as an emergency fund for a significant. Let's say that one of the turbines has a catastrophic failure and we need to replace it. We don't want to wait to put it into the CIP. That's what this would be used for. Is that correct?
No, so the $13 million in there, you have about 3.2 millions for the capital reserve. That's for the turbines and generation.
So that always sits untouched, specifically
Correct.
set aside for generation capacity.
And then from this is where we're gonna pay for us number 4, right?
Correct.
Correct.
But when I did the presentation back in early this year, as you approach 2025, there was a depletion of the electric fund because we gave some incentive to the residential customers. So that was kind of eating the fund balance. But I don't think that's going to be the case if we pursue the substation 4.
As far as being able to implement those changes to the billing structure for the customers due to the increased expenses of substation 4. And it wasn't built into, that additional $10 million was not built into our initial CIP. So
Correct.
That's where it's going to eat into some of our fund balance. This is just the electric fund balance. This is not the fund balance for utilities as a whole, like
No,
for water treatment, et cetera.
so each enterprise has their own fund. You have electric, water, and wastewater. They're separate.
So the additional projects that we're doing at the Gilchrist
Correct.
So do you see any problems in the future since we're only at 13.7? Because it's gonna be 14.5 million for the,
So the last rate study was done in 2018. So we're doing a master plan. Out of the master plan, there'll be a list of projects that we need to do over the next 10, 15 years. So once we put those numbers into the rate study model, that will tell us how much we need to increase rates in order to pay for the
I'm
project.
sorry, and when did you say the rate study would be again?
So the master plan will be done in March. Out of the master plan will be the CIPs for the next 10, 15 years,
March 2024?
2024,
And that has to be completed.
before the
so that we
rate
can plug
study.
those numbers into the rate study. So August-ish, August, September-ish of.
I'll probably say, yeah, probably late fall.
And what are the expenditures that you expect for the substation over the next 2 or 3 years? Or how are you going to set those payments up? I mean, it won't be all the whole 14 million at once.
So I don't know how long it's gonna take, and that's why we're waiting for the proposal from Olson to determine the schedule for construction, procurement and construction. So I couldn't tell you right now. But I know we probably have to raise rates if we wanna get these and other projects done.
And I don't remember seeing it in any presentations. For the Kill Creek project, for this project, for substation 4, for the transmission line that's going over to over by Excelligence, we're not using debt financing for any of those projects, if I'm understanding it correctly. Is that correct?
I think the idea was to use the fund balance to pay for those projects.
So we're paying cash and getting.
On,
the cash-
on most of the projects, yeah.
Getting the cash price out of it, we're not having to pay an additional fee for.
That's something that finance will determine if we can pay with cash or we need to raise debt.
Dead.
So we had, I'm trying to remember how long ago that was, right? We agreed to financing some stuff, lowering the rates, like, 5, 6 different things that was on the list to get this fund balance down where it should be. And now the cost of this project is $10 million higher than what we were anticipating. And so that changes what we're able to do within those 5 or 6 things that we outlined. Do those all have to come back here so we can talk about them and vote on them to move forward with the extra 10 million of the project?
I think the rate study is gonna tell us
Okay.
how usually we do the rate study and then we come up with some recommendations. In the past, the rate study, we used to have a subcommittee and we used to have 1 or 2 members from the UAC in the subcommittee.
For the rate study, I would be very interested to see that process unfold. And just, I don't know where the appropriate place to put this comment is, so I'll put it here and you can decide moving forward. As we move forward with rate studies and with CIP and all of those things, my preference, and obviously this would be a decision for the city council ultimately, but my preference is that the PAC never comes back, or the PCA.
Really, that's your preference?
I would prefer never to see the cost adjustment, the fluctuate, like having a set rate that our customers can count on and not have a fluctuating power cost
Oh,
adjustment.
you don't want the PAC?
I don't want it back.
Oh, I agree with
Yeah,
that.
I would like
Yes.
to see it never come back, so
Yeah.
I'm putting that out into the, putting
the
it out,
universe
putting it
there.
out there so that the conversations can include that, and I know this won't be the appropriate place for that totally, but
I agree with that.
kind of
I
throwing
do.
that out there.
Are there any other questions about the electric fund balance? Are there any other questions for staff?
I'll just mimic Mr. Stauffer for the master plan and rate study and any of that stuff. If you need UAC members, I'd be interested to participate as well.
Okay. So in the master plan, I just got a list of information from Kiewit. They're the consultant. So I'm putting that information together, and hopefully they'll get it by tomorrow, if not early next week. There's a lot of data.
A request for information, things they need in order to complete their study.
Any other questions? Anyone? I'm taking it that your backflow testing has a positive answer?
Yeah. I think we're wrapping it up. It's coming down to just a few, and so it's. I think that us going to the businesses and I just think that that's really helped. So yeah, we're down to just a couple that haven't done.
And you're working with them?
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah. Yep, we've been in communication with them. So there's just a few issues out there that we're trying to finalize some.
And on that note, I think, we've had quite a bit of discussion about it throughout this year. The deadline is June 1st, if I'm not mistaken. I think next year it would be, appropriate for us to look at having a grace period of July and starting in August if we don't have compliance. That's when we begin in-person visits, complete that by September, I would assume, would be
Started a lot earlier.
probably an appropriate course of action moving forward.
Okay. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. Beat ya.
Motion by Commissioner Plum, seconded by Augustine.
Stop.
You did it? Oh, I'm sorry.
Don't matter to me.
I thought you said you did it. Motion made by Stauffer, seconded by Augustine, to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting adjourned.